Welcome back to the Elevated Edge podcast. My name is Naeem. For today's episode, we have on Myles Adams, who recently just got re-signed by the Detroit Lions. In this episode, he breaks down the secret recipe on how to create your own luck and success in life. Honestly, this was something that I had never heard before, so it's definitely worth the listen. Let's get straight to it. So Myles, for people that might not know your story, can you give us the quick version of your journey to the NFL?
Oh, I definitely can. And I want to say thank you for, hosting me on this, my man. It's great things what you're doing. My journey to the NFL, where do I start? Man, so you and I both went to Rice University. I went there as a true freshman and red shirt got burned back when, they did do the 4 game thing. Uh, but true freshman at Rice and went through a coaching change. That's when we both linked up with the Bloomgren era. Rice was Group 5, so getting into the NFL dreams, we had a pretty competitive schedule. The Wake Forest, we had the University of Houston's, LSU, Baylor, Texas. Those are some teams that I got the chance to play in. Got some good film out there, so went undrafted to Carolina. Didn't get my name called, didn't get to shake Roger Goodell's hand or anything like that. But went undrafted, got picked up to the Matt Rule era when he started in Carolina. Bounced around from the P squad to Seattle's practice squad, and then found myself getting elevated 2021. And 2022, I made the roster for 3 years straight. And now I'm about to enter year 7 with Detroit. So I appreciate them. Shout out to One Pride.
Yeah, and obviously knowing your story, because it's not something where you're drafted, and you kind of talked about the importance of, you showed out definitely in like the big games. Obviously we played Baylor when they were ranked. Matt Rule was there, and I remember you having a really good game. Can you kind of speak on how that, kind of propelled your actual opportunity from there?
Yeah, in my personal opinion, I only got a little bit of reassurance from Frank Oakham, who was actually Rice's D line coach before he went and joined Matt Rule in Baylor. But he was actually my assistant D line coach in Carolina when I got picked up to them. He was traveling alongside with the Matt Rule team. And repeat that question one more time, brother.
Yeah, basically, obviously, Matt Rule, we played against him in 2019 season. And then from there, obviously, you played in some really big games. So, being present and making plays when you're playing bigger opponents than just a regular group of five, obviously was probably some of the big reasons when they turned on the film why you got your opportunity.
Yeah, take a trip down memory lane, man. That was the 3rd game of that football season, and we had, or it was either the 2nd or the 3rd game of that season. We had Texas right after it, so we had a pretty nice gauntlet for the non-conference games. Um, I will say personally that the film that I told scouts to watch, because they don't just cut up your highlight and watch your best plays. They ask you, "Hey, give me 2 or 3 games, and we're going to scout your full game, full reps." And I told them, turn on Baylor, turn on Texas. I think I logged 6 tackles, 1 tackle for loss against Baylor with a couple of QB pressures. They were trying to run the ball. I think a strong suit for the whole Rice team is, our defense. We held them to 21 points, and they were averaging 60 plus.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool. And obviously, you've been in the league for a little minute now, and you're still playing. So, what does it take mentally and physically to stay in the league year after year?
Yeah, yeah, man. I think the easy part is the physical part. We're all athletes. Obviously, some, more disciplined than others, but I say if you approach it with a disciplined route, the physical part is the easiest. I think you have to be able to approach the mental aspect of the business. Think something that I've taken is you must be able to take everything critically while taking nothing personally. And what I mean by that is understanding that you're playing the sport that you grew up playing, that you love playing, and everything should be taken with critical detail. But it's a business now, so you shouldn't take any of the decisions personally. Understand that it is a business that you're a part of now.
Yeah, that's really good. And maybe you could explain a little more just in regards to clarity. So, what you're talking about is probably like constructive criticism. They're going to look at your film, breaking it down, and obviously, since it's a business, They're really trying to understand how the rosters are going to play out. They're trying to figure out the key pieces. Obviously, certain guys are getting paid more than others, and realistically, those guys are probably going to get more burn than some because they're the ones
Yeah.
that they're selling all their jerseys. So I guess what are some of the best ways then that you can really take constructive criticism?
Man, it took me, trial and error, me personally, especially being the undrafted guy. I came in with a chip on my shoulder, so I'm always in improvement mode. I've been on 1 year deals since I got cut from Carolina. Because that story, I got cut from them. So the thing is, you get an NFL contract. Everyone gets an NFL contract, probably with some years on it. All rookies do. But if you don't make the roster out of training camp, that contract goes away, and now you're going to get a new contract. Hopefully, you make the practice squad. You're going to get that practice squad contract. So constructive criticism, man. I'll tell you the story that I tell everybody else. It's not even a story. This is my experience to the NFL. Matt Rule, when he was cutting me, I was looking at him. I think he saw the need for some kind of validation. I don't know if I call it validation, but some kind of reassurance or reinforcement, something to go off of, feedback, if you will. And he sat down, he just looked at me and said, listen, I'm going to shoot it to you straight, Myles, because you're a smart guy and I know where you come from because I played you in college. He said, you did everything for us right. I mean, I ain't, bro. They had me learning every position on the D line. I was even backing up Brian Burns at the rush position, buzzing under one, rat drops, quarter flat drops, covering Christian McCaffrey on the wheel route. I was doing all of that, playing all four core special teams. I'm talking about K3 on kickoff, right guard on punt, the mic on punt return. I'm doing it all, learning it all. And it just came down to the fact that they had drafted three guys in my room at my position. And like you said, it's a business. And a business has to do well on their return on their investment. So if they draft a guy and I'm the undrafted guy, what happened was we had some defensive backs go down. We had some wide receivers go down. The D line room was healthy. So my number's the one that gets called. And he shouted to me straight and said, if we have an opportunity to bring you back, we will. And he did honor his word. He brought me back in for a workout before I signed with Seattle.
That's really cool. And, you know, kind of going into that, it's like everyone in the NFL is talented. Like everyone can run. Everyone obviously is in really good shape. And in your position, what do you think are some of the things that can really separate guys who stay in the league versus the ones who don't?
Wow. That's a great question. Uh, in my experience, and from what I've seen, I'll say that understanding your role within a system, specifically knowing that this system has existed before you and it's going to continue to exist outside of you. And I'm not saying just a specific coaching regime or a certain defensive schematic, a certain play call set from an offensive coordinator. I'm talking about the Detroit Lions, for example, who I just re signed with. The Detroit Lions have been around for a long time before I was born, and they're going to continue to be around after I'm out of the league, whenever that is. So, understanding your role within the team and the opportunity you have and maximizing that. Because if you try to operate outside of your framework and outside of yourself and put yourself bigger than the program, it's probably not going to work out for you. This is a business. So, I think understanding your role is essential.
Yeah, and it's really cool for you to talk about like your role. You're giving out football terms where you're probably almost out of position being at the rush. Like you're almost 300 pounds, maybe even more, but you're absolutely yoked. And you're buzzing out to the flat, covering receivers, running with wheel routes with running backs. So that's something whatever you had to do to make it happen. Obviously, is probably a big reason why you've stayed in it. So I really want to understand kind of on like the mental side, just because obviously in the physical, you got to be in good shape. You got to show up. You got to do that. But really mentally, what are some of the daily habits and routines that really keep you locked in and focusing to really perform at a high level?
Man, I'm glad you're focusing on that aspect because it's been on my heart as of this year in 2026. I've actually been doing a mental health series on Instagram. It's something that I feel the Lord called me to do. And one of those daily things that you asked about is reading my Bible. I at least open my Bible and read at least one verse a day. Now, my goal is to read at least one chapter a day. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect, but I do read a verse a day. I mean, I have multiple of them tattooed on me, so I can just look in the mirror if I need to. But yeah, man, reading my Bible is paramount. That's one of the things that helps my mental health. It helps my focus. It keeps me grounded. You talk about mental, but daily mobility is mental for me as well, because if you're staying disciplined to a routine, that just reinforces that pathway, that loop in your brain to do things you may not want to do on a certain day, but you're still going to do it. It's discipline. I think discipline is mental more than it is physical. Affirmations are something I'm big on. Self talk. I'm a big self talk guy. Positive affirmations have been always big for me. I look in the mirror and tell myself that I belong in the rooms that I walk in. That's something that I'll say, and things along that nature. Reinforcing it's kind of the psychology of the brain, understanding how you can trick your subconscious or more so reshape it to be more beneficial toward the outcomes you want to see in the world. And quality time, that's big for my mental. And that's quality time with family, with friends, with film study, with my personal things. You know, I play the piano in my spare time. That's some quality time I spend. I stretch. I try to read. I'm trying to read one book every quarter. I've actually been reading is it The Creature of Jekyll Island? I believe the title is.
Yeah, the creature from Jekyll Island. No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, I've been reading.
Okay, let's
Yeah,
go.
that's my Q1 read. And it's one of my mentors actually told me that's a heavy first quarter read. You might take 2 quarters to read that. And it's taking me a little longer, but I'm getting through it and I've learned a lot. And I say anybody that watches this, man, give that book a try. It's more of an advanced one, but it's definitely worth your time.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And I think one of the really cool things I've seen, because obviously ball's way past me at this point, fortunate enough to play at Rice with you. But one of the cool things you're talking about, the discipline, the habits, the obviously having the correct vibrations and knowing what you have going on, even for life after ball for yourself and anyone that's still in the league, like if you keep that same work ethic and mindset, you're going to be able to really transition well into the real world ultimately. So obviously in your position and everyone that's in the league, even college, high school, football is really has a ton of setbacks. You got injuries, roster moves, just overall pressure. What are, I guess, what adversity in the NFL has taught you like about resiliency?
I mean, we can go down the list of adversity. I mean, I'm an eighth rounder, you know. Uh, I've been on 1 year deal since I got cut to be put on the practice squad from Carolina. So my time in Carolina was a 1 year. Every year I was in Seattle. I spent 4 years there, but every year was a 1 year prove it deal. I got to Detroit and was put on a 1 year deal, and I just signed another 1 year deal here. And a lot of guys probably couldn't handle knowing that their job is at stake every year. But I take it as a badge of honor because one, I'm undrafted, and two, it's an opportunity. You know, it's a perspective thing. You got to understand the money, like you talked about, the politics that money brings to the business side of it. Being your own biggest enemy is something that, you know, I had to work to get through. That was really big adversity for me, especially figuring out the roles and what I was talking to you about, because it didn't just happen overnight. It didn't just happen my rookie year when Matt Rule was gracious enough to tell an undrafted rookie the truth of the beast of the business. But over the time I spent with different teams, the successes, the failures, the story of resiliency for me is I'm not going to quit until a team stops calling me. And that hasn't happened yet. And I know that whatever I'm going to put my essence into, I'm going to do it to the highest level that I'm blessed to do it with. And I have all my limbs. I feel like CTE hasn't came for me yet. So I definitely have my, you know, brain intact. You know, I graduated from Rice. They call it the Harvard of the South. So I have that on my shoulder. It's a badge of honor. And I think that is the story of resiliency. You know, everybody doesn't get it to say that they've been an NFL football player. And while I'm still in the shoes, while I'm still wearing those shoes, I gotta make it, I gotta make the people that look at me as an example or look at me as something to strive for and continue to be a blessing for other people. It's a lot of factors at play here, but All of that just goes into why you push forward and persevere. You
Yeah,
know,
I love that. And Coach Smith at Rice used to say, "Be where your feet at, or be where your feet are at."
man,
And obviously, in your position, it's like you have a window and an opportunity, and obviously maximizing that and being able to take advantage of what you have in place, and just knowing that you're giving your best effort right this second, and that's really what matters. So, obviously, you've been in a couple different locker rooms. What are some of the key pieces when we're talking about like a team dynamic? One of the big things I talk about is like a team versus a group. And obviously, a team is people that are on like the same mission, have the same common goal, and a group is just an individuals that are together, but ultimately, they have their own kind of vendettas and interests at play. What makes a great locker room and just like a team culture in the NFL?
man, another great question, bro. And I'm glad. I love the way you phrased it too, because you know, jog your memory back to when it wasn't too long when you were strapping up the pads and sitting in the locker room having the banter that you do, man, talking, shooting it. You go throughout the locker room and you got different kinds of guys that make up a football team. You got your quiet guys, your silent assassins. You got your big talking guys, the one that are going to talk their stuff on the football field and they're going to back it up. You got your, I wouldn't call them middle of the pack, but you got your guys that are coachable, extremely coachable. They're going to listen and they're going to correct the mistakes, and they're big glue guys. You got your outliers. You got your stud athletes that may need a little reinforcement here and there. You may have the guys that you need to get on them a little bit because you see something in them they don't quite see in themselves. All of those described a bunch of individuals, like you said, and that can make a group of individuals. But in my experience, and I'm going to speak to what I saw in different locker rooms. So first, I'm going to shout out the Seattle Seahawks, man, Super Bowl champs, world champs in this football world. They did what they needed to do, and I know a lot of guys that got that done. So I'm tipping my hat off to them. What makes a team with all of the different types of guys I said is when you can let all of those individual egos, whatever it is that makes up the group of guys, if those egos aren't all separated, but they're all channeled into a greater good, man, you got yourself a good team, especially in the NFL, because every locker room looks different every single year. You know, some guys are finishing their rookie deals, or they're undrafted 1 year guys like me and they're on somewhere else. Or, they pick up a nice vet in the free agency, or it's a business. And when you can bring together a whole lot of different people in a big pot, stir it up, and you can bring a common goal, a bunch of men working together for a common goal, man, it's going to be hard to beat. And I think that's what we saw in Seattle. It was hard to beat them this year.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's a huge gold nugget right there. So this is the last question. In your opinion, what gives someone an elevated edge when it comes to competing in life?
Mm. Ah, man. I could say a lot of things like placement, alignment. Man, I'll say luck. But let me describe a little bit about what I mean. When I say luck, I'm not talking about the type you see, on the coin flip before a game, heads or tails type of luck. No, I'm talking about the kind of luck that you can create on your own. In specific, I'm talking about knowing what you want out of life. Usually, it takes reflection, it takes research, it takes planning, it takes action, but most importantly, it takes support. And how luck plays into that is knowing what you want to do in life means you have to prepare yourself to meet whatever opportunity life throws at you. Because life doesn't just throw obstacles your way. You can use those obstacles and climb on top of them and triumph. But you can only do that as far as your preparation will take you. Because I know wise coaches, you probably heard it before. You don't rise to the level of your competition. You sink to the level of you don't rise to the level of your competition. You sink to the level of your preparation. So I think being cognizant of your skills and your weaknesses and being able to develop yourself and prepare yourself for various opportunities, you can create your own luck and you can create the intended outcome you want for your life through your preparation. And I think that's what gives you an elevated edge in competition within life.
Yeah, man, genuinely just want to say, Miles, thank you very much for coming on. And there was a ton of gold nuggets, so really appreciate it and definitely look forward to having you on in the future and you crushing this year in the league, bro. So thank you.
Absolutely, bro. Thank you for having me, man. I'm glad you think they're gold.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
gave you a couple silver, couple browns, but nah, I appreciate you, bro. This is great. This is great. And I appreciated the time.